सम्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। We'll do a little bit of a review of chapter 9 and right, before we pick up chapter 10. So chapter 9 was titled Rajavidya Rajaguhya Yoga, and this is the most confidential portion of the Bhagavad Gita. And you know, of the middle 6 chapters, which is chapters 7 to 12, chapter 9 is the middle of those 6 chapters. I was listening to one preacher, a couple of analogies come to mind about how the Bhagavad Gita is structured. You know how to protect a book, you have hard covers, you know, the pages in between are delicate, and to bind the book together and keep it in place, you have two ends that are thicker. So Prabhupada says that the first 6 chapters are the front end of that cover, Karma Yoga. The middle, the delicate pages are Bhakti Yoga. And the back cover is actually Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga, also known as Sankhya Yoga. So these two are hard actually. Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga are the hard end of the two books, of the two sides of the book. Hard in one way, you cannot relish the Lord, you see. You don't experience the bliss by doing Karma Yoga, and you don't experience the bliss by simply studying scriptures. So what is the essence is actually what is protected by these two bookends, which is in the center, which is Bhakti Yoga. So I heard one more preacher using the analogy of a vada pav. You know, what we relish is the vada in between and not necessarily the bread, the two ends of the bread slices. But the bread slices make the pav more relishable. So Bhakti Yoga includes the pav. It includes the two bookends. But the actual taste for us is service. The actual bliss for us resides in serving Krishna. That's where the bliss arises. That's the origin of the bliss. So this chapter 9 is all about the most confidential knowledge. And we discussed yesterday that the single word summary for chapter 9 is
Password.
And what is the password?
Bhakti.
Bhakti, yes. So bhakti can unlock the doors to the spiritual planet for you. That is the essence of chapter 9 is bhakti. So this is considered the most confidential knowledge. So Krishna reveals 3 layers of confidential knowledge. In chapters 2 and 3, he talks about the difference between the body and the soul. That is the first element of confidentiality. Then in chapters 7 and 8, he talks about bhakti or devotional service. This is considered more confidential than understanding that there is a difference between the body and the soul. So chapters 2 and 3, Krishna talks about the soul, the fact that we are all spirit souls and the body is temporary. This is the first aspect of the confidential knowledge. Then in chapters 7 and 8, Krishna introduces the topic. Well, he's already talked about Bhakti Yoga in chapter 2, very briefly, but he expands on that topic in chapters 7 and 8 of what is Bhakti, devotional service. This is considered even more confidential than understanding that there is a difference between the body and the soul. So then what is chapter 9 then? Bhakti Yoga is already covered in chapters 7 and 8. So what is chapter 9 then? Chapter 9 is pure devotional service. Pure devotional service. This is generally talking about the Mahatmas, where they have uninterrupted, unmotivated love for the Lord. They are always absorbed in thinking about Krishna. So this is the most confidential knowledge, and hence chapter 9 is titled Raja Vidya Raja Guhya Yoga. So yes, there are many devotees of the Lord, but this chapter 9 is focused on his pure devotees. So Radhanath Swami Maharaj says that, it is easy to read the Bhagavad Gita and preach. And you can even be a very good preacher just by reading the Bhagavad Gita. But, so reading and preaching doesn't take a lot of qualification, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj says. But your purity is determined by your understanding of the scriptures, your realization of the scriptures, your ability to live it. To do all of this, Radhanath Swami Maharaj says that you need the mercy and blessings of a Vaishnava. Just to understand the scriptures, to realize what is it, and we will not get realization instantaneously, right? You will have small realizations throughout this process. Every day when you come and listen to class, there's one small takeaway for you. And each of us has a different takeaway from this classes. There is some message that seems to resonate well with you, and it seems like that message is something you needed to hear that particular day. So these are moments of realization that we will experience throughout our journey on this Bhakti Yoga path. And hence, studying never stops, I think it was Confucius who said that learn and study like as if you're going to live for 100 years. Study as if you're going to live for 100 years. But live as if you're going to die tomorrow. So I think this is attributed to Confucius. So again, learn as if you're going to live for 100 years, which means your thirst for knowledge should never dry up. But live your life as if you're going to leave your body any minute. May as well be joyful. What is there to be miserable about? There's so much we have to be thankful for. So who is qualified to receive this knowledge? Krishna uses the word anasuyave. I think Lakshman Prabhu had asked a question, had sent me the question to explain what does this anasuyave mean? And I will take a couple of analogies or examples that was used by another preacher. So let us say, for example, you're watching a movie. And in every movie, there is usually a hero or a heroine or both. If you want to play a role, whose role would you prefer to play? Who do we normally identify with?
The lead role.
The lead role, yes. So let's say you're into cricket and a match is going on. Who would you like to be? Sachin Tendulkar or somebody else? Or whatever, Virat Kohli or somebody else?
The captain is a preferred choice, but then again, it depends.
But
Yes.
generally, we tend to identify with the lead role, correct? Generally
Yes.
speaking. So similarly, when you hear about Krishna's power, about his mysticism, about his beauty, about his knowledge, about how attractive he is, if you begin to think you also want to be like Krishna, that is envy. That is envy. Envy also means when you think you are the master of everything that you survey and you're trying to control everything, you are simply trying to imitate God. So when we try to imitate God, that is envy in us. Now, as I mentioned in one of the earlier sessions, it doesn't necessarily mean we are thinking, I want to be you, Krishna. No. But momentarily, we may think, I also want to enjoy whatever that enjoy is. That is envy. So Krishna is saying the first qualification for you to even understand me and understand this knowledge and understand bhakti is you must be non-envious. Anasuyave. And of course, he comes back to the point of Shraddha. Shraddha is important. You know, when some people in India hear about the Rasa Leela of the Lord and how the Lord is enjoying himself with millions of gopis. If you read the Bhagavatam, it's not thousands of gopis. Millions of gopis are dancing with Krishna, and with each of them, Krishna is present. So there are a group of people in India who believe they can imitate this. They are called the Sahajiyas. They only want to imitate the Lord in his Rasa Leela pastimes. This is envy. When you think you can enjoy just like the Lord. We cannot enjoy without the Lord anything. You know, there is this demon Shankachuda in the Bhagavatam, if you read this. When he sees the gopis, he thinks even he wants to enjoy them. Just like the Lord was enjoying them. Why can't I do that? This is envy. So when you feel like you can imitate the Lord, although technically speaking, you may not be thinking that you want to imitate the Lord, but in effect, what you're doing is you're trying to imitate the Lord. This is envy. So in Shloka 1, Krishna talks about the qualifications, Anusuyava, non-enviousness. In Shloka 2, Krishna himself says, what I'm about to reveal to you is the king of knowledge. And if you understand this, you don't need to hear anything more, Krishna says. So chapter 2 was about the soul. So you can say that is jnana. About jnana. In chapters 3 to 6, how to realize the soul through various paths of yoga is what Krishna talks about. So chapter 2 is about understanding what is the soul, the nature of the soul. Then chapters 3 to 6 is how can you realize the soul? The various processes. And so Krishna talks about the various processes to achieve self-realization from chapters 3 to 6. But in chapters 7 to 8, he talks about the best process to self-realization, which is Bhakti Yoga, which is in chapters 7 and 8. And then in chapter 9, Krishna is glorifying that Bhakti Yoga. So again, in chapters 9, Krishna talks about the material world, the spiritual world. He talks about his energies. He talks about how he interacts with his energies, both his superior energy as well as the inferior energy. This is the inconceivable relationship between Prakriti, Jivatma, Paramatma.
Mataji, can you repeat this, please? Chapter 1 and how did you differentiate it, please?
Chapter?
The 2 you said is Jnana Yoga.
Chapter
right?
2 is about the soul, correct?
Soul.
Chapters 3 to 6 is what are the various processes that you can undertake to realize yourself, self-realization, the different yoga paths. Of that, the best of the best, topmost process is Bhakti Yoga, which is what Krishna expands on in chapters 7 and 8. And in chapter 9, he glorifies Bhakti Yoga. So again, in Shloka 10, Krishna is saying, material energy is working under my direction. So we need to understand that everything is cyclical. You know, the mistake that we make is life is linear. Life is not linear. Our experiences are cyclical. Creation, maintenance, destruction. Creation, maintenance, destruction. It's a cycle. And then in earlier chapter, Krishna talks about the 4 kinds of people who do not surrender to him. And the first one of them he calls Moodha. In shlokas 11 and 12, Krishna is expanding on the psychology of those Moodhas. Why they don't surrender, he explains in 11 and 12. He says, no, fools deride me when I descend in my human form. They do not understand my transcendental nature. And then immediately after shlokas 11 and 12, when he has gone back to the Moodhas, in 13 and 14, he contrasts it immediately with those who surrender to him, his bhaktas, the Mahatmas, the pure devotees. So 11 and 12, Moodhas, the psychology of the Moodhas. 13 and 14, the mood of his pure devotees. Satatam kirtayanto mam is what Krishna says. His pure devotees are always glorifying him. They're always chanting his names. They're always talking about him. They don't waste too much time on mundane matters. They are just kind of completely drowned in Krishna consciousness. And then Krishna talks about 3 different categories. In between the Moodhas and those who are fully surrendered to him, he talks about the 3 categories. If you recall, Ekatvena, then Prithakvena, And then Bahuda Vishwata Mukham. 3 levels of devotees. On the extreme left is those who reject him, don't accept that there is even a God. And then extreme right is those who are fully surrendered. In between, he talks about the levels of devotees. Ekatvena means they believe in this philosophy of Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi means I am Brahman. And therefore, I am God, you are God, everybody is God. So such practitioners are called, if everybody could kindly stay on mute. So such practitioners, Kishore Prabhu, what seems to be the problem? You are unmuting yourself again and again. Please stay on mute.
Network problem.
Prabhuji, just stay on mute. Huh? Thank you, Prabhu. So these individuals who believe in this philosophy of Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, you are Brahman, we are all Brahman, this, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, the world is false. In our culture, they are known as Mayavadis. While they accept the Vedic scriptures, they do not accept the concept of a supreme Lord, because everybody is God. You've just forgotten that you're God. So this school of philosophy was established by Adi Sankaracharya, Aham Brahmasmi. Although Adi Sankaracharya is a great devotee of Lord Krishna, yet he establishes this philosophy. For that, we will not go into the reasons why he does that. He was actually instructed by Lord Krishna to do that. So this Ekatvena means I am Brahman. There is no difference between God and me. I have forgotten I am God. I need to just come back to that platform of godliness. So this is Ekatvena. One level higher than them, Krishna talks about in Shloka 15. In Shloka 15, he talks about these 3. Ekatvena, Pritakvena. Pritakvena is those who worship demigods. Krishna is saying better than those who reject me and think that they are God. Better than them is those who worship demigods. This is Pritakvena. And then the highest among these 3. Highest is those who surrender to Lord Krishna. The highest is Bahuda Vishwata Mukham. Those who believe in the cosmic form of the Lord as Virat Purusha, which the Lord will reveal to Arjuna in chapter 11. They are higher than the other 2. So those who worship the demigods are better than the Mayavadis. Those who worship the Virat Purusha form of the Lord are better than those who worship the demigods. But higher than all this is those who believe that Krishna is in the spiritual world and they need to get back there. This cosmic manifestation, the Virat Purusha, exists only in the material universe. It doesn't exist in the spiritual universe. Therefore, you have limited the concept of God to the material cosmos. And that is not a complete understanding of the Lord. And hence, it is not, even if you are worshipping the Virat Purusha form of the Lord, you are worshipping an incomplete form of the Lord, and therefore it is not considered the topmost. So in Shloka 18, if you read it, it's a good definition of the word God. Krishna covers everything. He says, I am everything. Then Krishna talks about the worship of demigods again, between 20 to 25. And then immediately after that, he contrasts worshipping the demigods with those who worship him in pure devotional service. So remember, we said chapter 9 is about pure devotional service. And very nice shloka, you know, this 9.22, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, which is when Krishna says, those who are my devotees, I carry for them what they lack and I preserve for them what they have. In that shloka, actually, let us see if I can go to that shloka. Because if you read that shloka, I want to explain something quickly there. Yeah, here it is. Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, Ye Janah Paryupashate, Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. The word Vahami means carry. You know, there was a Sri Sampradaya Acharya, his name was Arjunacharya. Arjunacharya, who was coming in the Ramanujacharya Parampara. So when he was reading the Bhagavad Gita, he looks at this word Vahami and he meditates on it and he thinks, must be a mistake. How can the Lord carry what the devotee lacks? So what does he do? As he's reading the Bhagavad Gita, he strikes out the word Vahami and replaces that word with Karomi, which means to imply the Lord will not personally come and carry for you what you lack, but he will send somebody, and through that somebody, you get what you lack. So he replaces the word Vahami with Karomi. Karomi means the Lord will enable it for you through someone else. He will not do it personally. So this is what Arjunacharya does. He strikes out the word Vahami and replaces it with the word Karomi. So what happens? After he does that, he goes to take a bath. His wife is at home. Two young boys come knocking on the door, bringing a lot of groceries. One is beautifully dark-skinned. The other one is beautifully fair. We know who these two gentlemen are. And they come and deliver groceries. Now, Arjunacharya has gone to take a bath. His wife is at home. These two boys visit Krishna and Balaram. And the wife accepts what they're offering, but she's so attracted by both of their beauty. She says, why are you in a hurry? Why don't you stay back? And Krishna and Balaram tell her, no, we have to run. You know, your husband is going to beat us up. And she's shocked when she hears this. She says, my husband is going to beat you up. He's a very pious man. Why would he do that? And they tell her, well, he's already beaten us once before. She says, what do you mean? And both Krishna and Balaram turn around and she sees welt marks on their backs. And they say, we cannot stay. We cannot stay here. So seeing the welt marks on their back, she gets so upset. When her husband comes back, she says, why are you beating up these two boys? And he says, what two boys are you talking about? And when his wife describes the two boys, Arjunacharya understands immediately that the Lord had come to visit. And he goes to his book where he had struck out the word Vahami. You see that striking out that word Vahami was the welts on the backs of Krishna and Balaram. So the Lord was telling Arjunacharya, you are wrong. I don't send somebody else to take care of my devotees. If they are surrendered to me, I personally carry for them what they lack. Krishna doesn't make any mistakes. When he speaks, he's clear. Even great acharyas may think, maybe Krishna meant something else. No. Krishna didn't mean anything else. He is saying, I carry what they lack. He personally gets involved in your life when things go wrong. So this is a nice pastime. I thought I would relate it because it relates to that particular verse 9.22. So what the Acharya thought was a mistake, the Lord in his own way reveals to him, it's not a mistake. He meant it when he said, I carry for my devotees what they lack. So the very last few shlokas, which is 26 to 34, the Lord glorifies pure devotional service. And interesting, he says you can just offer one leaf, one flower, one fruit. He doesn't use plural. Patram, pushpam, phalam. Singular. Just once if you offer with love and devotion, Krishna says he accepts it. And in 26, Krishna is saying what he wants. Patram, pushpam, phalam, toyam. If you give these to me with love and affection, I will accept it. Well, what if you don't want to give him what he wants? In the very next shloka, 27, Krishna very cleverly says, I have already revealed to you what I want. This is my desire. You just give me patram, pushpam, phalam, toyam. But let's say you are unable to follow the simple instruction. You want whatever you want. In shloka 27, if you read it, Krishna says, whatever you do in life, at least offer it to me first. He doesn't say, I accept it. Only in shloka 26, the Lord says he accepts it. In shloka 27, it is what you desire, what you want in life. He says, Arey Baba, that is okay. Whatever you desire, at least you offer it to me first. He doesn't say in that shloka that he accepts it. You see how Krishna is so chatur, huh? In 26, he says, these you give to me with love and affection, I will take it. Shloka 27, whatever you want to do, never mind, at least at a minimum offer it to me, Baba, so that you don't experience the results of your karma. So, bhakti is what you do in shloka 26. What you do in 27 is mixed bhakti. It is not, your desire is not to please Krishna. Your desire is to please yourself, but in the process of pleasing yourself, Krishna is saying, at least offer it to me before you do it. So this is the beauty of this one chapter, chapter 9. See, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper into the shlokas. One more very important shloka that is a little controversial. When Krishna says, I envy no one, I am not partial to anyone, but then he has a sentence that begins with but. I think we read that shloka, yeah? Yeah, here it is. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. I was listening to a wonderful lecture on what this shloka really means. When the Lord says he is neutral, he is referring to himself as the Paramatma, as just the witness. In that sense, as Paramatma, everybody is equal in his eyes. But the next statement that begins with the word but He's referencing himself as Bhagavan in his complete form of Satchitananda Vigraha. As Bhagavan, he makes his choice clear. As Paramatma, he is neutral. As Bhagavan, he is exuding his feelings here. He's saying, my devotee is great. They are my friend, and in turn, I become their friend. I become very dear to them. So Vibhishana as a devotee advises Ravana to return Sita Devi to Lord Ram, that what he was doing was wrong. Ravana does not listen. And when Vibhishana leaves and comes to take shelter of Lord Ram sees Vibhishana and addresses him as Lankapati. Lankapati, king of Sri Lanka. The other devotees are a little bit concerned. Why is Lord Ram already addressing Vibhishana as Lankapati? The devotees ask Lord Ram, why did you do that? Why did you address him as Lankapati? Because as far as we know, Ravana is ruling Lanka. But why did you address Vibhishana as Lankapati? Because they know the minute the Lord uses those words, then it must come true. At that time, Lord Ram says, Vibhishana is already the king of Lanka. And so the devotees ask, what if Ravana comes and takes your shelter tomorrow? What will you do? And Lord Ram says, well, if Ravana comes and takes my shelter tomorrow, then I will give him Ayodhya. Vibhishana can rule Lanka. If Ravana comes and takes my shelter tomorrow, I will give him Ayodhya. He can rule over Ayodhya. And then they say, well, what happens to Bharat Maharaj? What if Bharat wants to rule? Lord Ram says, I'll give him Vaikuntha. He can go rule over Vaikuntha. And then the devotees ask, Are, if you give up even Vaikuntha, which is your abode, where will you go? Lord Ram. And to that, Lord Ram says, I will reside in the hearts of my devotees. That's the best temple for me. So this is the Lord, you see. He reciprocates equally with everyone as long as to the level with which you are willing to surrender. If you're not willing to surrender, he will reciprocate with you accordingly. If you're willing to surrender fully, then he'll reciprocate with you according to that level of surrender. So this is what impartiality means. So even if Ravana comes and takes shelter of Lord, the Lord will accept him. With all his faults, it doesn't matter. The Lord will simply accept him. So surrender is an important. So whoever takes shelter of the Lord, the minute you take shelter of the Lord becomes partial to you. So that's what the Lord means when he says, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. As Paramatma, I am equal to all as Paramatma. But whoever renders service unto me, well, you're on a different platform suddenly. So we'll begin chapter 10. It's a wonderful chapter. I hope all of you all have read chapter 9. There's so much to understand from this chapter. And chapter 10 is called Vibhuti Yoga, or the opulence of the absolute. I will take questions in the end because we are already running a little late. So the opulence, the word Vibhuti means opulence. Opulence, abundance. So now we are going to get into the opulence of the absolute. There is something mystical that happens in this chapter. The Lord has already talked about his opulence in chapter 7, in chapters 8, in chapter 9. In chapter 10, he will expand on it, but then he will arrive at a conclusion, which is going to be surprising for us. So in chapter 9, Krishna has advised Arjuna, always think of me, never forget me. The very last shloka, yes. Always think of me, become my devotee, offer your obeisances to me, worship me. 4 instructions. In chapter 10, Krishna will tell Arjuna how to execute on these 4. How can you do this? Always think of Krishna. So Krishna again repeats, he's in everything, he's everywhere, he's the essence of everything. You can see me in everything. But then, in a few shlokas, Krishna talks about the opulence of his devotees. So before we begin, I want to offer my humble obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So Krishna will again begin by talking about the importance of hearing. The essence of the Gita is contained in this chapter. Those who accept the Lord as the Supreme, and the truth that is revealed to those who have accepted Him. So the acronym for today is HEAR. Shlokas 1 to 7 is about hearing. The essence of the Gita in 3 shlokas, 8 to 11. We'll talk about that. This 8 to 11 shloka is called the Chatushloki. So our acharyas say, for those who don't have the time to read the Bhagavad Gita at all, they can just open chapter 10, read these 4 shlokas. If they have understood these 4 shlokas, they've understood the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So these 4 shlokas, 8, 9, 10, and 11, are called the Chatushloki. The essence of the Bhagavad Gita in 4 shlokas. Those who accept the Lord and how He reveals Himself to those who accept Him. This is a slightly longer chapter. Again, Krishna wants Arjuna to hear attentively. Your Shraddha begins with hearing. Your faith begins with hearing about the Lord. Then Krishna says something in Shloka 2. Along with hearing and faith, you need my mercy. It's an essential ingredient for you to practice Bhakti Yoga. You need the mercy of Krishna to practice Bhakti Yoga. And Krishna will talk about how one can get free from sins in Shloka 3. And then Krishna says all qualities, whether it is good or bad, everything arises from me. It's the duality that we see in the material cosmos. But everything, including the qualities, Krishna says, I am the source. So this shloka is the reason for the title of this chapter, Vibhuti Yoga. Tam vibhutim yogam cha mama yoveti tattvataha so vikalpena yogena yujyate natra samshayah. One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mine engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there is no doubt. So Krishna is essentially saying, if you are already convinced that I am the Supreme, I have told you so much in chapter 7, in chapter 8, in chapter 9, I have reiterated to you time and time again how I am the Supreme Lord. If you are convinced by this, if you're convinced by my opulence, if you're convinced by the fact that I have the mystic power, you will engage in devotional service to me. All your doubts will be shattered. You will surrender to me simply by understanding my opulence. This is Vibhuti, the opulence of the Lord. This is important. Krishna talks about the attributes of faith in the shlokas. One is, we have to have faith that there is a Supreme Lord and He exists. One can understand just by observing the beautiful creation that there is a creator behind it. That itself should be enough for us to understand that there is somebody superior out there. So Krishna says one has to have faith in his existence. Then Krishna says he is the cause of all causes and he sustains everything that exists in the cosmos. Therefore, Krishna's relevance comes into picture. We must have faith in Krishna's relevance in each of our personal lives. Then how can we understand Krishna's benevolence when he says, I respond to you to the extent to which you surrender to me? So he's always there for you. The question is, are you turning towards him or are you turning away from him? If you turn towards him and acknowledge him, then to the level of your surrender, he reciprocates with you. Finally, Krishna says, my plans and the decisions that he makes are the best. We can all make all our feeble plans, but without Krishna in the center, we will be defeated time and time again. But we have to act sincerely and perform our duties because we don't know what is Krishna's plan for us. So we are forced to act, we have to act and beg the Lord for his mercy that whatever decisions that we are taking is the right decision and he will reveal the outcome in the future. So some preacher was saying, when we work, we should work like atheists in the sense that we should think that we are in control. We should plan, organize, execute perfectly, like as if everything is in our hands. But after we've executed flawlessly, thinking that we are in control, acting like we are, everything depends on us, then we leave it to Krishna. The outcome, we leave it to Krishna. But after the outcome comes, you will evaluate again. Yes, the evaluation process is continuous. So you will make changes if something went wrong. And then accordingly, you will act again. So this is also a cycle. So what is Krishna saying? The more attentively we hear, the easier it is for us to become fixed up in devotional service. If we are inattentive, then we are in and out of this process. We have to hear very attentive to become fixed up in bhakti. To understand Krishna and his teachings in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, you need my mercy. If I don't bless you, you will not understand it at all. And then Krishna says, those who have come in contact with this knowledge are very fortunate. They are fortunate because they get to hear about Lord Krishna, the Supreme Lord. They also get to hear about his pure devotees, how they interact with Krishna. So any soul who has had the fortune of reading the Bhagavad Gita in association with sadhu, Krishna says they already have my blessings. It's a great fortune for them to be reading the Bhagavad Gita. Hence, ISKCON is so focused on this outreach program. Because the minute you step into this class, understand and accept that you already have Krishna's protection and mercy. The rest is up to you, how much you want to surrender to him. That freedom he has given you. So we said the essence of the Bhagavad Gita is in these 4 shlokas, 8 to 11. So let's try and read 8 to 11. And then I will summarize why Vibhuti Yoga ultimately is not about Krishna, it's about his devotees. So in shloka 8, Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam Bhuda bhava samanvita. Krishna says, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Okay? First two sentences, Krishna is talking about himself. The latter half of the shloka, he's talking about his devotees. And the next three shlokas, Krishna talks about the glory of his devotees. So, which means the opulence of the Lord, Krishna is saying, is not the Lord himself. This Vibhuti Yoga is actually his devotees, pure devotees, sorry. So the opulence of the Lord is represented by his pure devotees. So in these four shlokas, less than 25% of these four shlokas is about Krishna. 80% of what Krishna says is about his devotees, pure devotees. He's glorifying his pure devotees. Machchitta madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam katayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Krishna saying, you know, my pure devotees, the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Krishna is saying, my pure devotees, I don't know, what can I tell you about them? They're always thinking about me. They're always serving me. And they derive such great bliss and satisfaction just talking about me among themselves. So Krishna is not even saying they are personally associated with me here. That's why they're experiencing bliss. No, no, no. They are experiencing bliss simply by among themselves, they're always talking about me. Such as the platform of my pure devotees. They are absorbed in me fully. They are drowned in my leelas. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Krishna is saying, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So Krishna is saying, initially when you're practicing bhakti yoga, you may not fully understand everything. But if you are devoted to serving Krishna and you're doing it with love, Krishna says he will reveal himself to you. You don't have to try your darndest to understand philosophy, to understand Krishna. Through your devotion alone, the Lord will reveal himself to you. And then he says, they will come back to me. 11th shloka. Tesham evanukampartam aham ajnanajam tamah nashayamyatma bhavasto jnana deepena bhashvata. Krishna saying. Again, he's still talking about his pure devotees. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with a shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So any anarthas that we have, any doubts that we have, Krishna says, for my pure devotees, I eliminate everything. What is he saying? My special mercy. Because they are always worshipping me, I'm always in their heart. And with the shining lamp of knowledge, I destroy their ignorance. Last of the Chatushloke. Sorry, that 11th one was the last one. 8, 9, 10, and 11. So it's beautiful shlokas. You can read the shlokas again and understand exactly Krishna's mood. Krishna is revealing his emotions for his pure devotees. So, my dear devotees, the opulence of Krishna comes from his pure devotees, because they're always worshipping him, they're always thinking about him, they're always talking about him, they're always serving. They are just preoccupied. To them, it doesn't matter whether they are in Golok Vrindavan or they are in Vaikunta. Here and now, they are busy enjoying themselves, always thinking about Krishna, always talking about Krishna. So, the results of knowing Krishna is explained in these same shlokas. The fact that you have understood his opulence, because of that you surrender to him and you practice pure devotion. And Krishna himself gives you the intelligence to overcome all of your ignorance. And by his special mercy, he arranges it in such a way that your faith becomes stronger. Your determination to worship him simply keeps growing until you go back to him. We read the shloka. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattas sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam bhuda bhava samanta. I am the source of all spiritual material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts, full-fledged, not one leg in the boat, entire body in the boat of bhakti, to help you cross over the material miseries. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadhami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, again, love, 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 right? Krishna doesn't use the word peace here. There is a difference. When you practice dhyana yoga, you may experience peace. Krishna's preference is love, not peace. So Krishna keeps coming back to the topic of love, love, love. Love for whom? Love for him. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So what are the three goals for us? Or the three O's to progress in bhakti? Our only goal in life is to go back to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. That should be our only goal. Everything else is secondary. The only qualification that is needed to achieve Krishna Prema is our own sincerity and our level of bhakti. So the more sincere we become, the more our bhakti increases and the more our love for the Lord grows. What is the only expectation we need to fulfill? We should perform some seva for the Lord. Bhakti cannot be practiced in a forest by yourself. Cannot be. Bhakti means devotional service. Service means in association with other devotees of Krishna, you can perform service. So you see, love and service are the intersections of bhakti. Without service, you cannot love Krishna. If you love Krishna, you want to serve him. It's just natural, right? We discussed that our constitutional position is to serve. It's our innate nature to serve. Instead of serving ourselves, we should just first prioritize serving Krishna. So if one wants to progress in Krishna consciousness, then one should not consider Krishna and his name as ordinary. In this chapter 10, Krishna will say that he is non-different than his name. So Krishna, you may think, what, Krishna is not here, he's not physically present before me. Krishna says, when you chant my name, I'm there. I'm there with you. I'm listening to you, chanting. You know, some Acharya was saying, when you're chanting the holy names of the Lord has his hands on his cheek on his hands, and he's listening to you intently. And then when you jump up and down and do kirtan, he is jumping up and down in joy. So that's the Lord's mood. Devotees don't waste time in mundane things. Rather, they utilize their time in hearing and conversing about Krishna. How can we become fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness when we also have so many other activities that has nothing to do with Krishna? So one should be sincere and should perform some sort of work for Krishna with love. The same Chatur Shloke, we are just talking about the realizations from these shlokas. What is it that we need to take away from these 4 shlokas? Then Arjuna asks questions. Okay, you are God. How do I understand you as God? Tell me a little bit more about your opulences. How should I think of you? How should I know you? These are the questions that Arjuna asks. I have accepted now that you are God. How do I understand you? How can I think about you? How do I get to know you better? And by the way, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself, about your opulences? Although Krishna has already said that in chapter 7, chapter 8, chapter 9, but still Arjuna is thirsty to hear more about the Lord's opulences. And if you read this chapter, you will realize how many analogies or references Krishna gives in how you can remember. You know, he says, of the Adityas, I'm Vishnu, of the light, I'm the sun, of the Maruts, I'm Marichi, of the stars, I'm the moon, of the Vedas, I'm the Samaveda, of the demigods, I'm Indra, of the senses, I'm the mind, of the Rudras, I'm Shiva. Like this, he goes on from shloka 21 all the way to the end. And then Krishna asks, actually, why do you need to know all this? Why are you asking this question? Can't you understand I'm the Supreme? How much more do I need to tell you about my opulences? But then hearing about the Lord helps us transform our heart and mind, you see. The more we hear about the Lord, the more cleansing is happening. Unconsciously or conscious, actually everything is happening unconsciously. So Prabhupada says, you know, even if you're not paying attention when you're reciting the Maha Mantra, still it has an impact on you. So imagine if you pay attention while you're chanting the Maha Mantra, how much cleansing will happen. So the transformation of our heart and mind happens by hearing about Krishna. So how can one make Krishna the center of our life? And how do we follow in the footsteps of Arjuna, who's always saying, I want to hear more. I want to hear more about you. So this entire bhakti process is a very joyful process, Krishna says. Krishna is saying the bhakti process is joyful. He's never used this word with jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, or karma yoga. But with bhakti yoga, he says this process is most joyful. And it yields very quick results. It's fruitful. ROI, least investment, maximum return. That's what we all want, right? Because we want the easy way out. Arjuna said, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. And then Arjuna says, I am not saying this. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring to me that you are the Supreme Lord. So Arjuna is saying, I have accepted you as the Supreme Lord, but all the great sages have already acknowledged you as the Supreme Lord, and now you yourself are declaring to me that you are the Supreme Lord. What more doubts should we have left? Why should there be any more doubts in our mind? Why is Arjuna asking these questions? He already knows that Krishna is Bhagavan. He's asking these questions for our benefit, so we can begin to hear about Krishna's opulence. And then what is the mood of the devotees? Devotees, we don't care. Any class is there, we will sign up and we're ready to hear. We just want to hear the nectar, whether it is in the form of philosophy in Bhagavad Gita, or whether it is in the shape of pastimes and leelas of the Lord in Srimad Bhagavatam. It doesn't matter. For us, we relish it all. We are eager to hear more. We can attend the same 18 chapters again and again and again, and we are never unhappy. We never feel like it's enough. I'm done reading 18 chapters, nothing more to do. No, that is not the mood of the devotees. The devotee is always like a bumblebee coming back to extract the nectar. It keeps going back to the flowers. So devotees are like bumblebees. We are always trying to extract a little bit more nectar from the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam. Unlike the fly, they fly, the fly may come and land on the flower for some time, but then it goes in searches of filth. That is materialistic thought process. A fly always goes looking for filth, open source, so it can go feed off of that. My dear devotees, this is the difference between devotees and non-devotees. The non-devotees are like the flies, always hovering around rubbish. The devotees always want to hang out with other devotees and experience and relish the nectar of our scriptures. We will keep coming back to the scriptures. This is the difference between devotees and demons. For personal absorption, so that one can also understand how can we think of him at the time of death. So what are the lessons for us here? If we accept Krishna to be the Supreme Lord, he personally becomes engaged in your life and he helps your mind and heart transform. Krishna again talks briefly about the importance of hearing this knowledge from Parampara, not reading it on your own, independently. And the benefits of hearing about Krishna is only experienced when you practically perform bhakti yoga, which is service. So then we said the entire rest of the chapter is Krishna talking about himself. He says, of all of the vibrations, I am the syllable Om. Of the sages, I am Bhrigu. Of the bodies of water, I am the ocean. Of the generals, I am Kartikeya. Of the priests, I am Brihaspati. Of the mountains, I am Mount Meru. And then he says, of all the sacrifices, the topmost sacrifice is chanting my holy name. So if you wanted any proof, what is the topmost sacrifice to perform from the Bhagavad Gita? It is in chapter 10. Krishna says the topmost sacrifice is doing Harinam Sankirtan. And this is that shloka, shloka 25. So if anybody argues with you, why are you foolishly repeating the same mantra over and over again? It seems ridiculous to repeat the same thing over and over and over again. You can tell them, read shloka 10.25. Maharshinam briguraham giram asmekam aksharam yajnanam japa yajñosmi stavaranam himalayah. Krishna says, of the great sages, I am Bhrigu. Of vibrations, I am the transcendental Om. Of sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy names. And of immovable things, I am the Himalayas. This is the reason we say in Kali Yuga, chanting the holy names of the Lord is sufficient. You don't need to do anything else. Yajnanam japa yajñosmi. Topmost of sacrifices, Krishna says, is to simply chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. This is the topmost sacrifice that one can ever perform. Of course, throughout this chapter, Krishna talks about how he exists everywhere. That he is the mind, he is the life force, he is the ocean. Among the animals, he is the lion. Chanting of the holy name. Of the best of his devotees, he says, is Prahlad. Narada Muni, who's always thinking about him, a great Mahatma. Of the rivers, he is the Ganges. Krishna says, I am silence, I am death. And he says, of all of the sciences, the topmost science is to study the science of the Lord. So he's saying the spiritual science is the topmost science. Everything else is on the material platform. So studying about Krishna, Krishna is saying is the topmost science. It's not sentimentalism. It is not blind faith. Krishna is saying studying the knowledge about the absolute truth is the topmost of all the sciences. So the only way we can purify our senses is by understanding the greatness of Krishna. Arjuna technically is not in ignorance, but we are. We can come out of this ignorance by practicing bhakti yoga. Krishna says, right from Lord Brahma to the small ant, they exist because of him. He exists in them as a super soul. Atava bahunaitena kim gyatena tavarjuna vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam ekam shena stito jagat. And then Krishna concludes by saying, but what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. Krishna is asking Arjuna, why do you need to know all this anyway? All you need to know is just with a single fragment of myself, I am supporting this entire cosmos. You don't need to know anything else. So Krishna concludes by asking this question. Why? What need is there for you to know all of this? All you need to know is, I am the Supreme Lord. And I pervade everything. Can't you understand just by looking at material nature that I exist in everything? So, what is the single word summary for today's chapter? Yesterday it was password. The password is bhakti.
Bhaktas.
Bhaktas, yes. Lord Krishna is saying the opulence of Krishna can be understood by simply looking at his pure devotees. That his pure devotees are like that pearl necklace. No? They are the pearls which Krishna is holding together. So this is the Chatushloke. Krishna is glorifying his pure devotees and he is saying, actually they are my opulence. So the single word summary for today is Bhakta, the pure devotees of the Lord. We will stop here and I will stay back for any questions. Vancha kalpadarupyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.